Welcome back to Gaelic Games Fan TV. Louth are the Leinster Senior Football Champions for the first time in 68 years. Can you believe it? The wee county have only gone and done it. Their first Leinster title since 1957. This is not a dream. This is real life. This is. I can't even speak. I can't speak. This has actually happened. How has that happened? Absolutely crazy stuff. Those were some of the scenes in Croke Park. I was at the game. Genuinely insane, I suppose, being there from a neutral perspective. Look, I wanted Louth to win as a Dublin fan. I mean, obviously, you know, there's rivalries there and everything else. And I also wanted to see Louth to do after what happened in 2010 and, you know, not winning a Leinster title since 1957. Look, I think this is a very good Meath side. I think they will be back. I think they do win a Leinster title in this decade, maybe even more than one, in my opinion. But look, fair play to Louth for battling back, for keeping themselves in the game in the first half. And then in the second half, when they needed to score, they did. When they needed to step up, they did. But then towards the end of the game as well, keeping the ball for about 6 or 7 minutes. I've not seen another county do that. That was incredible. And it had probably the kind of Ger Brennan Dublin blueprint written all over it from the times Ger Brennan was involved with Dublin as well. You know, you could really kind of see that towards the end of the game in terms of the way they were keeping possession and everything else. But an incredible game, an incredible story. Absolutely remarkable. The atmosphere inside Croke Park is up there with certainly one of the best atmospheres I've heard, to be honest with you. And I always think as a neutral, when you go to a game, you feel the atmosphere more because you're not supporting another side. So you can feel, you feel the goals because you're essentially not, not celebrating them. You might react to them, but you're not, you're not jumping around with some other of the fans of the team that you support. But yeah, it was just absolutely incredible, deafening. Certainly the best atmosphere I've heard at a Leinster final. I think that goes without question. Maybe back in the early 2000s when I was a small kid and everything else, maybe the atmospheres then were better. But that was incredible, absolutely incredible. And two very good sides, two teams that gave it their absolute all. First half I thought was a little bit cagey, a little bit nervy. There was a lot of turnovers. It was a bit of a scrappy game. It was very intense. You could feel it in the crowd as well. And, Meath were playing some brilliant stuff at times in terms of some of the points they were getting. But Louth just kept on scoring goals. And all the goals kept coming at times when it looked like Meath were about to kick on. And incredible to think Louth kick, 2 points within the first half. And both of them, only 2 of them were from play, which was incredible. So, to end the first half with 3-3 was kind of remarkable there. But yeah, like Sam Mulroy obviously getting the penalty. Looking at it, obviously I'll have to see the replay. Did look a bit of a dubious penalty from where I was in the sort of upper Hogan, I will say that. Looked like it was one of them that I would be a bit annoyed if that was against my team, but look, I have to see the replay back because I haven't seen the replay back. Only, you're miles away from it. But yeah, Sam Mulroy dispatches it. And it was mad. Ryan Burns gets a goal as well. Like what a finish that was, cutting inside. And even as well to have the tenacity and the balls to actually go for that, like fair play. And then it was mental, really, because Meath really it was like a royal wave for about 5-6 minutes, right up until Craig Lennon's goal at the end of the half. Meath just swarmed Louth. And every kick out, Meath were winning. They were kicking 2-pointers. Rory Kinsella kicked one. Sean Coffey, James Conlon was getting points. And Meath just couldn't do anything wrong within that specific period. And you're thinking, goodness me, like Louth have gone from being 2 or 3 up to all of a sudden being 4 down. There was a 7-point swing in the space of like 4 minutes. Absolutely incredible. But then Craig Lennon does what Craig Lennon does, as I've seen Louth GA even post that on their own Twitter. And then he just pops it. What a finish. Incredible stuff. And Louth having, I think, looked a little bit more nervy, a little bit more nervous than of the two sides in that first half. Only went down a point. We're only a point down. And even with that as well, like there was moments in the first half maybe where they were overplaying a little bit, passes going astray. They couldn't really get Sam Mulroy into the game. And then even at the start of the second half, Sam Mulroy, who obviously lifts the Leinster title, will go down as one of the greatest footballers to ever play for Louth. But he might even say it himself. He probably had a bit of an off day himself. He missed a couple of chances. at the start of the second half, missed a 2-pointer, and it was a weird out game. But then what happened was Louth just started to dominate more and more around the middle. Like Tommy Dernan, what a performance! Goodness me! I mean, the amount of ball he won in that second half was incredible. And to be fair, one of the substitutes as well, Kieran Keenan, I thought he made a massive impact as well. He was absolutely brilliant. And Louth just consistently turning the ball over. And then Louth had the majority of the possession. They were keeping the ball, and they were being very, very patient. They were waiting for the right openings. They weren't rushing any of their chances. And gradually they just started to kind of wean their way back in, to be fair. And it was a struggle for Meath because I feel like they barely touched the ball in the second half. They could barely create any chances. You know, you've Jordan Morris coming off the bench, and albeit coming back from a long-term injury, couldn't really get him into the game at all. And Louth were just gradually, you know, they were winning frees. Conor Grimes was getting points. Kieran Downey as well. The Matthew Costello goal must have felt like an absolute, you know, pit to the stomach, I would say, when that goes in, because it came completely against run of play and actually came from Louth having the ball. It was actually Sam Leroy who had the ball, and then he sort of loses it, and then Meath go down the other end and obviously get themselves that goal. And you're thinking, for all of Louth's brilliant work, they've been undone, and you know, you were kind of expecting Meath to kick on and win it from there, but no, you know, like Sam Leroy gets a 2-pointer from a free with about, you know, 6-7 minutes to go. Louth have possession of the ball, and you're thinking there's no way they're going to hang on to this for the full 7 minutes, but they more or less do that until Craig Lennon kicks a point at the end. Meath couldn't get the ball after that, and extraordinary, absolutely incredible. And to be fair to Louth, they were so patient, they were so measured. The way that they were working the ball through the middle as well, like being in the upper Hogan, you know, and it's brilliant because you can see kind of everything. You can see the movement, like the amount of space that Meath were leaving, I think, in their own like full back line at times, and Louth were just exploiting it time and time again. And they were very well coached, very well drilled, and an extraordinary achievement to win a first Leinster title since 1957. You know, I remember watching that game in 2010 and thinking, goodness me, they'll never get a better chance. They'll never get a better chance. And for the majority of the next 10 years, Louth were, you know, a Division 4 side, a Division 3 team. You know, they were, you know, lucky to probably win a game in Leinster. Do you know what I mean? They were in a very similar position to the likes of Carlow and probably Wexford now, if we're being perfectly honest with you. You know, they were no different to those counties at that moment in time. And, you know, through a tremendous amount of work that's obviously been done behind the scenes, because you're seeing the minors, you're seeing the under-20s. I mean, they could win a treble. They could win a Leinster treble, which would be absolutely remarkable. Obviously, Mickey Hart coming in, got the ball rolling, got everyone on side, and sort of, you know, brought them up through the divisions. He leaves. You're thinking that's going to be the end of that. But then Ger Brennan comes in, having not managed the senior county team before, massive pressure. And he's taken them on even further. And he's shown an incredible amount of tactical flexibility as well, Ger Brennan, because when they need to be defensive, they are. We saw that last year, but they'll keep the ball in certain moments. You see them working the ball in little triangles as well. They're very, very well coached. And I think Ger Brennan deserves massive, massive credit. And look, if that Dublin job ever comes available in the next couple of years, he has to get a call. And look, who knows? Maybe he might stick with Louth. You know what I mean? And he's well within his right to do that, to be fair. You could argue Louth is actually in a better position than Dublin now going into the next couple of years, given the underage and given the fact of what they've just done. And that's incredible to say, but it is the reality. So, yeah, extraordinary game. Massive credit to Louth. For Meath, I don't know what happened in the second half. It looked like maybe they were a bit too defensive. Maybe they allowed Louth to keep the ball too much. They missed a couple of chances in the second half as well, and weren't probably clinical enough in that regard. Maybe when Louth started to kind of step it up. And just the midfield was just dominated, and they really kind of struggled in that aspect. And you have to commend Tommy Dernan, Adam McDonnell, who were absolutely brilliant. And the thing with Louth as well is that, you know, you're getting scores obviously from Sam Leroy, but Ryan Burns outstanding with 1-3. You're getting Craig Lennon getting a goal and a point. Conor Grimes was outstanding. So much influence all across the pitch, but there we are. We'll run through some comments here. Dubs fan says, "Is football the new hurling?" It appears that way. You know, and incredible to see just the scenes and everything else. Yeah, absolutely madness. A2 says, "What a day! was an absolute pleasure to be there. Scenes you won't forget. Craig Lennon, goal of the year. Samuel Roy, balls of steel. And shout out to Kieran Downey too. Massive second half from him. Showed up when the game was there to be won. He was absolutely brilliant. Rory says here, I knew it was going to be Louth's day, the way they pushed Dublin last year. And James says, well done, Louth, on throwing under 20s. Both a great day out. And Shawnee says, absolutely delighted for Louth, although I thought they had the run of the ref decisions in the last 15 minutes. A draw would have probably been a fair result. Can't begrudge Louth after 68 years. Yeah, there probably was a few 50-50s that maybe went the way of Louth. A few kind of calls maybe here and there that maybe went the way of Louth. Obviously Louth fans will say, look, 15 years ago, they had probably, one of the worst decisions ever go against them. So, maybe it's karma. I don't really know, but look, you can't begrudge them. In fairness, they were absolutely brilliant. And they got over the line in the end. They did it by 2 points as well. For me, that will be an absolute kick in the teeth. I mean, to beat Dublin, to have that moment. Look, we see it so often in Gaelic football and hurling. Like it's such a common occurrence to beat the big team in the semi-final or take out a massive sort of champion or big team, and then you go into the final and then you lose it. You know what I mean? It's the other team's kind of waiting there, maybe as the underdog a little bit. And look, Meath have a lot of young players. To have done what they've done this year is still an improvement. And I know like a lot of Meath fans will look back at this game as a missed opportunity. Look, Dublin will be back in the mix next year, I'm sure. But at the same time, you've a lot of very good young players there, and Owen Frayne and James Conlon. Rory Kinsella was very impressive. Jordan Morris didn't start, and from what I've seen of him, he didn't look his best, and he's probably only coming back from an injury there. Billy Hogan looks like a fantastic goalkeeper as well. He kicked 4 points in total, and he was brilliant on a lot of his kickouts as well. So I don't think it's the end of the world for me. Look, it will feel like that now, but I think you look at the trajectory of them, and the trajectory of some of the other counties around them. Look, Louth are probably the only ones maybe they should seriously fear, and Dublin. Look, Dublin will get their act together, and I would suspect Dublin will absolutely be back in the mix for Leinster next season, and hopefully not make the same mistakes again. But Meath will be there, and they, I think they can win a Leinster within this decade. Maybe one or two, but there we are. Rory says it probably makes it better for Louth, in my opinion, ending Dublin's 14 or 15-year domination. Yeah, absolutely. It is Louth in the end who, Meath are the ones who beat Dublin, but Louth are the ones that, when we look back in history, you'll see Dublin Leinster champions for a 14-year spin, and then Louth will be the ones after that. Meath were the ones before the dominance started. So yeah, extraordinary stuff there, really. And what a spectacle, what a game. To be there and witness, like even the fans as well. A lot of flares and everything before the game, which you don't often see in Gaelic football, but I loved it, to be honest with you. It added to the atmosphere. It was, it was brilliant, and there were a few flares launched at different stages, so I hope no one got hurt from what I looked at, from what I could see. But it just looked absolutely incredible, incredible drama there, or incredible kind of scenes to actually see that on the hill. And even as well, when the goals are going in, how the Meath fans reacted to their goal, just absolute pandemonium. And to think Leinster football has been deprived of that over the last 14 years. And look, as a Dublin fan, you enjoy the games, you enjoy the wins, but maybe I would take losing to experience that, because it was incredible, to be honest. So and it definitely does be a 15 in a row. But look, hopefully, Dublin, winning Leinster titles for Dublin will mean something now for the next couple of years. You know what I mean? And it will become a thing that it hasn't been. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. Rory says, considering they're the smallest county. Yeah, incredible. I don't know. Is it maybe Longford or Leitrim are the smallest county? Or maybe Louth is. I actually have no idea. Seamus says, reminds me of 2020 when Cork bet Kerry, then Tip beat Cork. Yeah, very, very similar. There's so many examples of it. Sligo in 2010 beating Galway and Mayo to then lose to Roscommon. You look at the Cork hurlers last year, who went and beat Limerick twice, but then lost to Clare in the final. Even Mayo in 2021 as well, beat Dublin, but then lost in the All-Ireland final to Tyrone. It is such a common occurrence, and it probably does feel like you've there's probably maybe that sense that you've done it, and you actually haven't. You know what I mean? So maybe there's that sense of getting ahead of yourself a little bit. I don't really know. It's kind of hard to know, but there we are. Gaelic Guy says, what an incredible achievement. Big up the wee county. Yeah, big up the wee county indeed. Rory says, Dublin have dominated since I was 5. Yeah, like there'll be a lot of people probably, who have never seen another county other than Dublin lift the Leinster title, which is crazy, really. And when you actually think about it, like this is actually the second Leinster team to win it. There's only been 2 Leinster teams other than Dublin to win a Leinster title since 2004, since Westmeath did it in 2004, because Dublin did it between 2005 and 2009. Meath did it in 2010. Dublin have then done it, up until this year, where Louth have done it. So it is kind of remarkable to see, and it will be very interesting to see, where Leinster goes from here. Is it just a one-off? Will Dublin just pick it up next year, maybe with new management and everything else? There's a lot of great club players. There are good players in the county. I know the underage doesn't look great at the moment, but there is players there to come in and step in. So that'll just be interesting to see if Dublin do go on now actually to dominate it again. But there we are. Gavin says definitely could see Ger Brennan as Dublin manager in 4 to 5 years. And Gavin says Newcastle Louth winning cups. Who's next? Hopefully not Mayo, Gavin. That's all I'll say. And I know you agree with me there. Tom says such a shame the Leinster Council is the only province that doesn't allow fans onto the pitch afterwards. And ironically enough, that's because of 2010 as well. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the main reason for that. I think there are a lot of safety reasons for it, though, to be fair. If it's not in Croke Park, the fans are allowed on the pitch. It's just one of them things, unfortunately. But look, it is what it is. In terms of who do you think would take the Dublin job? Look, I would absolutely put Ger Brennan in the mix there. And I know there'll be Louth fans watching this and saying, I don't want you to mention that or speak about it. Look, of course, he has more than earned the stripes to become Dublin manager. But as I said, maybe he doesn't, maybe he sticks with Louth for the next couple of years because of what's coming through there and because of the younger players, the underage, the under 20s and everything else. Maybe he declines Dublin, which sounds mad, but maybe he does that. But at the same time, I think Ger Brennan would be a fantastic manager for Dublin. I think he's proven he's more than good enough. And I think if he managed Dublin, I'd be fairly confident he'd win an All-Ireland with Dublin. I think he'd do enough to get Dublin over the line from what I've seen. For him to be able to have done what he's done with Louth. And let's not forget as well, last year, like Louth were within only 4 points of Dublin. So like they were very close to beating Dublin as well. And if Louth had played Dublin in a Leinster semi-final in Portlaoise, I think they would have won the game as well. Do you know that way? So, I think Louth have been building towards this moment over the last couple of years. But yeah, Gavin says if the Miners win a treble Leinster Championship, what an achievement. Yeah, it's incredible, really. To do that, to win a minor. And look, they might not. They might lose one of them maybe, and they might lose both of the other ones. I don't know. I don't think Louth fans will care after winning this one. This is the main one, to be fair, isn't it? But like an incredible amount of work has been done there. I don't know the ins and outs, and maybe it's a video that needs to happen looking at the rise of Louth football. But yeah, like they've obviously done a huge amount of work, maybe with facilities, with underage. They obviously have the stadium coming in. So yeah, it is extraordinary stuff there. Mikey says, delighted for Louth. If ever a team deserved the provincial championship, it's Louth. Yeah, it is. And I'll put the ghost of 2010 to bed a little bit. Maybe 2010 won't get spoken about enough now, or as much now because of this moment. And yeah, just incredible to think we have gone full circle. I do remember 4 or 5 years ago, Louth were no different to, Laois, Carlow, Wexford, down near the bottom of the pyramid in Leinster. I remember Dublin playing Louth, I think in 2019, and I think it was like a quarter final or something like that. And it was in Portlaoise, and we beat them by like 24, 25 points. And, we probably could have beat them by more. And to think within 6 years, Louth have gone and won a Leinster title, it's absolutely remarkable. And it is one of the great GAA achievements, in my opinion, for what they've actually done. And look, they go into a group stage now. I can't even remember who's in that group. I think Clare are in it. I think it might be the Munster Is it no, Clare, the Munster runners-up. So Clare are definitely in that group. I'll need to go back and have a look at who's in. I think Down maybe are in that group as well. So Louth can absolutely win that group. Maybe come second. I think Monaghan are in it as well. So it's Monaghan, Clare, Louth, and then Down, I think. So Louth can absolutely maybe win that group or even come second. And another quarter-final, maybe even more, is absolutely possible. As Mikey says there, yeah, they're in a group with Clare, Monaghan, and Down, so they can absolutely win that. So yeah, incredible stuff. Rory says there was always slowly going to happen as well with Jim Gavin left. With Jim Gavin leaving. I mean, he always expected there to be a drop off, but it has been incredible to see it. But yeah, fair play to Louth. Massive congratulations to them. Man of the match is a tricky one. There's so many great players. I thought Tommy Durnan was absolutely outstanding, but I probably would go with Ryan Burns, who scored 1-3 and was absolutely brilliant. Commiserations to Meath. Look, they will be back. They're a young team. They've definitely still made progress, and I don't think it's the end of the world necessarily for them. I think they'll still be in the mix for Leinster over the next couple of years. But do let me know your thoughts, your opinions in the comments down below. Mikey does say here, Meath in with Kerry, Roscommon and Cork. That'll be a tough group, to be fair. And Seamus says Pat Spillane said they wouldn't get a chance like this for another 20 years. Back in 2010, took them only 15. And to be fair, it was understandable to say that. It was understandable to say that because, 2010, like when you actually look at 2010 for Louth, it was a bit of an anomaly. Like it was just a year where a lot of things went right and they got to the final. Like I think they were a good team, but I don't think they were anywhere near the levels of this team as an example where, Louth were building for years before winning this, whereas 2010, it was just kind of one of those moments that kind of transported. And you seen after 2010, they kind of fell away, after that. Whereas now, I don't think they'll fall away. And even had they have lost today, they absolutely still would have been in the mix the next couple of years. But I think it just gets harder the more times you miss out, that way. And obviously seeing me do it as well would have been tough. A tough pill to swallow. But yeah, look, we'll wrap it up there. Congratulations to the Louth fans. Massive celebrations, I'm sure, across the county of Louth. Commiserations to Meath. Hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll speak to you all soon.